Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj, and today we have Matthieu Mehuys with us. Matthieu, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Atul, for having me. I'm very excited to dive deep and talk about some genius things.
Awesome. So, for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Matthieu. I grew up on a farm. Both my father and my brother are farmers. And by the time I was 3 years old, I got really fascinated about growing plants. So when I was 5 years old, I started my first garden. And when I started my first garden, I was starting out with growing radishes. And radishes is like super easy to grow. So, and I'll explain you later because I'm a landscape architect today. But so I started when I was 5 years old designing my own garden and growing some food. And I started with radishes. And it was super easy. Like if you want to grow your own food, start with radishes. In a few weeks, you can have your own harvest. And then I thought like, wow, this is so simple. I'm now going to grow all kinds of other things, carrots, lettuce, tomatoes, everything. But that became like I put out my seeds. I started preparing everything, but I was 5 years old. I had no clue what I was doing. So I came back after I had seeded everything, and I came back and my whole garden was overgrown by weeds that were taller than myself. And that was devastating. I was like, what did I do wrong? Why didn't it work? Why, like I had all these questions, why nature wasn't working with me. And it was only later in life when I I studied a bachelor in garden design. I did a master in landscape architecture, and I then continued to study sustainable ways of farming, of gardening. And in fact, I was in India and I did a permaculture design course in Goa, which really shifted everything for me, because from that moment, I started to understand how nature works and how you can work with nature to your advantage. So it becomes a lot easier. And so I did that training. Then I was studying in Germany at that time. So I went back to Germany and I started my first 9-to-5 job. And I thought like, after graduating and after traveling to India for 3 months, which was an amazing experience, I then said, okay, we're going to start a job in Germany. It's in a company that's very good. And I did that for 2.5 years and I was completely depressed and I was like devastated because I didn't fit into the 9-to-5 system, because it wasn't for me. It was very bureaucratic, a lot of paperwork, even though I really some parts I enjoyed, and I learned a lot to like do engineering on German level. That was good, but it wasn't for me. So I quit my job. I had a little bit of money saved up. And I said, I'm going to travel the world more because I love traveling. Traveling is one of my biggest passions. And I said, I'm going to visit a lot of projects that are doing something great for the world, for the environment, and for the people, and that are also doing good in business. From that experience, I went to a lot of farms, I went to parks, I went to gardens, all kinds of sustainable developments. And I was really inspired by that. And I was doing that for 1.5 years. I enjoyed it because I also had a remote job. So I worked a few hours a week just to sustain my lifestyle of living in small hostels, working on farms and sleeping in hammocks. Like it was a really basic lifestyle, but it was nice because I really enjoyed it. And then Atul, I went to one of the most amazing places on the planet, which is the Amazon rainforest. And there because I said, I want to see what is it like. A lot of people talk about the Amazon rainforest. So I said, I want to go. So I went, Atul, and like really in the depth of the Amazon rainforest with an amazing guide for 3 days. And I saw the most amazing things in my life. Like I saw dolphins in the Amazon rainforest. We saw parrots. We saw 10 types of monkeys. We saw piranhas. We saw like so much diversity and trees that in India you have those trees as well, but trees that are bigger than skyscrapers. And I was so impressed by that. And I thought like, well, we have to make sure that we can protect this for the next generations, because this is what makes living on this beautiful planet possible. It's the clean air, the clean water. So we cannot chop those forests down. And then what happened, Atul, you might think this kind of interesting, is that I got stung by a mosquito and I got the dengue disease. I think in India you also have dengue fever.
Yeah, they call it dengue.
Dengue. So
Yeah.
I got really sick from going to the Amazon rainforest. And this was like my wake-up call from Mother Nature, because from there my life really went down. I didn't have money. I had to move back in with my parents. My girlfriend dumped me. So everything in my life was like rock bottom. So I kind of lost everything. And then I said to myself, okay, now that I have nothing to lose, why am I here on this planet and what can I do? And I said, okay, I want to make sure that this beautiful planet we can sustain this beautiful planet for the next generations, for many people, and that we can also live in harmony with nature. So I said, okay, how can I do that? And I found out that starting a business is the best way to do that, because when you work with clients, you can actually change the world. Long story short, that's now been 4 years, almost 5 years in business. And now we have clients in 4 continents. We do landscape architecture designs. We work in real estate development projects. We are also active in farming, and now since the beginning of this year, now 8 months, I'm living in the Azores, which is it's an island group of 9 islands in the middle of the Atlantic, and here we're also working with farmers and other sustainable developments.
You know what? Me and my family members, we are talking about having our own farm. So maybe you can help with us.
Yeah.
That time.
Yeah, we should totally talk about that.
Yeah. So can you talk about some projects that you have worked on?
In the past, or that are currently we're working on?
In the past?
Yeah, so I've worked on projects in Belgium where I grew up and where I started my business. We did luxury garden designs for people. And as we did the luxury garden designs, what all of my clients ask is like, I want this beautiful garden with beautiful plants and all, but I don't want to have maintenance. I don't want to have to pay a lot of money or do a lot of work myself. So in the projects that we do for gardens, we focus on finding natural solutions to reduce maintenance, because it's very expensive to maintain it. If you do it conventionally, you start using chemicals and it's really bad because the system doesn't work and it's becoming more difficult. So we use the natural solutions. And I also talk about that in my book, 12 Universal Laws of Nature. How to get the most potential out of your land is that when you start to work with nature, you can really have the best benefits for whatever you want to do. If you want to do a farm, or you just want to have an ornamental garden, or it doesn't really matter what you want to achieve, but when you work with nature, it will be far more effective. So we've done projects in Belgium. We also did like city gardens in Germany. I've worked on projects in Australia. There we have 2 clients, and both of them one is more like a new construction of 2 houses with a beautiful garden. Another one is just a single family home. I've actually worked in Saudi Arabia on some projects as well for greening the desert there, or there's like these wadis that are very dry and we regenerate them. So
hey, by the way, can you also make a farm or something like that on a 1st or maybe 2nd floor? Is it possible?
To do it on a rooftop, you mean?
Yeah, garden.
Yes, it's totally possible.
Okay.
We're doing a project.
But we don't want it like a pot. We don't want that.
You don't want it like a what?
Like pot, it's like a pot like this, and there is sand inside this some kind of box, and
Not
then
like
it's
a
plant.
pot.
Yeah, I don't want that.
No, you can grow a whole garden. You just make an artificial soil, which is still natural, and then you can grow any plants on a rooftop. We're doing one active project at the moment in Belgium for a big office building, and then one part of the office building is going to be a big green roof park, actually, on the first floor.
Yeah, that'll look like really beautiful.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, by the way, when you do that, don't they have some kind of leakage, like water leakage?
Question. Atul, very good question. So the way we do it from an engineering perspective, we have architects that will do the whole roof, and it kind of is like a swimming pool. So there's a specific material, they call it EPDM.
Okay.
Which is a material. It's kind of the same like asphalt, but they use that to kind of create some space that the water cannot escape. But then you also still have little holes in the roof. So if there's too much water, it can drain.
Yeah.
And that's the best system to do that. Obviously, it's very important to do it really well, because if there's a small hole, then that can become a problem over time.
Yeah, you're right. I have another home, and we have given given that as a rent, and we have similar kind of problem there, because every time if it's too much raining, they're going to have some kind of
in the roof. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really important to do it right from the beginning. It's a little
Yeah.
bit expensive, but then you're good for many, many years.
So, by the way, can you talk about your book?
Yes. So my book, 12 Universal Laws of Nature, I had the idea that people don't really understand how nature works. And why would it be important to understand how nature works is that Einstein said, look deep into nature and you will understand everything better. So I try to help people to understand how nature works, because nature has been working in a certain way for millions and millions of years. So it's like there's a certain system and there's certain laws by which nature works. And then if you don't understand these laws, mostly all the time you'll be working against nature. So you'll be fighting nature. For example, in farming they use chemicals, they use tillage, they use a lot of machines, and they're destroying the soil all the time. They're constantly fighting against nature. That's, first of all, that's very expensive. Second of all, with climate change, it's not working anymore because the temperatures are very high, very low, a lot of rain, no rain. So those extremes make the conventional way of doing things become impossible. Even in gardening, we see systems that used to work 50 years ago, where they use a lot of spraying of chemicals and to keep everything look good. That system is collapsing because the climate is too extreme. And that's because we are constantly fighting against nature. Now, if we turn that around and we start to understand how nature works, and if you want, I can give you some examples of how nature works, is that when we have that knowledge and now we start a farm or we start a garden, you're going to be far more successful, and it's going to be far cheaper even to do it than compared to other conventional systems.
Okay, so you have spent so many times in garden, okay, and you must have spent time in places when there is no garden. So,
Yeah.
like, what's the difference?
Oh, you mean
Like,
in cities or in
yeah,
deserts?
okay, doesn't matter, okay, but how is the? I mean, how do you like? What's the difference in how you're feeling?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Atul. So
Yeah.
I personally, I sometimes like now I'm in my office and I have to be in a concrete building just because I have internet
Uh-huh.
and it's useful. But if I would be here for too long, then I will feel like, oh, I need to get out. And so when you then spend time in nature, it really shifts your energy, your mood. There's a lot of science that proves that when you spend time in nature, you're going to be more productive, you're going to be healthier. And gardening is one way of doing that right in front of your door or right outside of your door, because not every day you can go to beautiful national parks. I know in India you have amazing, beautiful nature parks that are well protected, but you cannot go there every day, right? So what can you do to connect with nature is to do gardening. And when you do gardening, it's even proven that if you do gardening sustainably and ecologically and you don't use chemicals, then the soil in your garden is going to be very healthy. So a lot of people think, oh, it's just dirt and the plants, you don't touch it. But if you work with your own hands and put them in the soil and you dig around, you change some plants and you maybe do some weeding or whatever, then there's microorganisms in the soil. So these are very important, these microorganisms, for the health of the plants because they make plants healthy. But if you touch them and you touch the soil, it's going to actually, your skin, your hands can absorb it. And now that's going to improve your personal health, because also in our own system, we have a lot of microorganisms. They say there's more microorganisms than there are cells in our body. So there's a lot of microorganisms that are supporting our health. They actually help with our digestive system, because if you have a good gut system, then you can digest the food very good and you can absorb the nutrients. But if you eat constantly chemical food with like fast food and processed food and unhealthy food, then you're going to destroy all the microorganisms in your own gut system. And then you can still eat salads and healthy food. You're not going to absorb the nutrients. So, and that is exactly the same with the soil. And so even in the world, if you're trying to be very healthy and very natural, there's still a lot of pollutants in the atmosphere. And I know in India, there's quite a bit of pollution. So you need to do something actively to promote your health. And I think the best way of doing that is doing gardening. So if you're sitting on an office all day and you feel like, you don't feel good, then go outside and work in your garden, do something, and you'll see your energy is going to shift immediately.
By the way, like for someone who cannot have a garden, okay, for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
then what can they do, like inside a home?
Yeah, there's some things you can do, but it's very limited. What I would say is that if you're more in an apartment or you don't have access to direct green spaces, try and see if there is a community garden in your neighborhood. So you can go around the corner. There's a lot of initiatives. You can Google that. Or if that is not an option, then you can look for organic farms and you can drive there on the weekend and maybe work on the farm for 1 hour on the organic farm. And that then in exchange, you will get some food from the farmer and you will help with them. You will connect with them and you can support them.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
so is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think it's important that when people want to start gardening or doing something in farming that they work with experts, because you can do it on your own and you can try and find things on YouTube and watch a lot of YouTube videos, which is very time consuming. But what will happen is that you will get more overwhelmed. Like people are like, oh, I want to start. And then you start to research and there's so much information that is completely overwhelming. So then they're like, no, I cannot do this. And they get stuck and they don't start. They don't know where to start. So finding someone in your network that you can trust and that has proven to do really good things in gardening, that will help you to win a lot of time. Because if you look at it, we only have, if we are very lucky, we have 80 years on this planet, and that's 80 seasons of growing. You don't have that much time to like try and fail and try again. Also, it's very expensive. So working with experts is really important in my opinion.
Okay. Okay, so for the people who want to know more about you and what you do, where can they connect you?
So you can find me on most social media platforms. So if you just Google my name, you can find me on Instagram for like gardening tips and tricks. We also have another profile on Instagram for the luxury garden designs. I think we can add that to the show notes. That's Paulonia, which is my business company. And on LinkedIn, I'm also posting more like for investors and business opportunities related to nature and biodiversity, because there's a lot of opportunities there to grow your business with nature. And yeah, I think that's it. Sometimes I post on TikTok as well, some short videos. So that's where you can find me the most.
Okay, awesome. It was great chatting with you, Matthew, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Atul, for having me. And you're a great host. Congratulations on your show.
Thank you.